I was so wrong about sweet wines. Hey, what's up? It's Madeline Puckette from Wine Folly, where we learn by drinking. Today, I'm diving into a topic that's mired in misunderstanding, sweet wines. And by the end of this video, you're gonna realize what some people never learn, that sweet wines are surprisingly sophisticated and seriously delicious. I used to think that sweet wine had added sugar. I was so wrong. I also thought that sweet wines were unsophisticated. And this, my friends, was my biggest blunder. In front of me right now is a small selection of some of the world's finest sweet wines. These mind-expanding wines have stories and flavors that will change the way you see sweet wines forever. And get this, they're all shockingly affordable for what they are. Not all sweet wines are syrupy sweet. In fact, Germany's most prized wine style, if you can get your hands on it, is going to blow your mind. This wine hails from Germany's Mosel Valley, where Riesling is the star grape. But German wine labels scare many folks away with their complexity. Spätlese simply means late harvest, and it means the grapes were left on the vine a little bit longer and to produce a richer, riper style of Riesling wine. Once you learn how to read a German label, you'll realize that all the information is actually right there in front of you. The village it came from, the vineyard, the producer's name, and the alcohol level is actually a clue to the sweetness. This wine has about 5% sweetness, but the acidity is so high, it tastes balanced with these intense flavors of ripe peach, apricot, and lime. And I also get these fantastic slaty mineral notes. Mosel Riesling is highly collectible because these wines will age easily for 20 to 30 years. Now, you might spend about $40 to $60 for a top quality Mosel Riesling, but when you compare that to Cult Cabernet, going for 10 times the price, you'll be wondering why you didn't start collecting this stuff sooner. Love wine? Me too. If you'd like to learn more about wine, join me at winefolly.com. Wine Folly isn't just a book, and we're not just a YouTube channel. It's an amazing online resource where you can take courses, access a huge resource of wine information, and take it to wherever you want to go. Before dry wines like French Burgundy dominated fine dining wine lists, sweet wines ruled the world. In fact, one of the earliest demarcated wine regions was Port in 1756. We're in Portugal's Douro Valley, where port wine uses a blend of native grapes like Touriga Nacional and Touriga Franca. The wine tradition here is so significant it became a UNESCO World Heritage in 2001. What makes port special is the addition of brandy partway through the fermentation. Brandy kills the yeast, leaving the grape sugars fortified into port. There are several amazing styles of port wine, and this one in my glass is called Tawny Port. Tawny ages for many years in oak, which oxidizes the wine, giving it this characteristic amber color. In fact, when you see 20-year on the label, it represents the average age of the wines in the blend. To me, 20 years is when Tawny really starts to get interesting. These wines show incredible depth of flavor with dried fruits, hazelnuts, caramel, with like hints of orange peel and exotic spices. The texture is impossibly smooth and silky with sweetness perfectly balanced by acidity. It's crazy that you can buy a wine that's been pre-aged for 20 years for around $50. It's actually quite possibly obscene. Everyone talks about Barolo when it comes to Italian wine, but here's the big surprise. Moscato is much more widely planted in Piemonte, and get this, it's the most popular sweet wine in the world. Here, we're in Italy's Piemonte. Moscato Bianco has been planted here for at least 700 years, in and around the town of Canelli. And in fact, supposedly, Asti Spumante was the first sparkling wine of Italy since 1865. I have in my glass some Moscato d'Asti, which is the lightly sparkling or frizzante version, and it's already received Italy's highest quality designation, DOCG. The wine shows incredible aromatics, fresh peach, mandarin orange, honeysuckle, orange blossom, and despite having significant sweetness, it's about 15% sweetness, it maintains a beautiful balance because of the zesty bubbles, and it's very low alcohol, only about 5.5%. It's crazy to me that a wine with such a bouquet of aromas can only cost around $20 a bottle. I can't even buy a bouquet of roses for that price. Think mold on grapes sounds terrible? Well, France's most prestigious sweet wine actually depends on it, and it's been making collectors weak in the knees since the mid-1800s. We're in Bordeaux's Sauternes region, where a beneficial mold called Botrytis cinerea, or noble rot, transforms Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc grapes into liquid gold. In fact, this tiny region is so important it was included in the famous 1855 classification along with other Bordeaux red wines. The magic happens when an autumn fog comes in and creates perfect conditions for noble rot to develop. This punctures tiny holes in the grape skins, which causes the water to evaporate and concentrates the sugars. The process is incredibly risky and labor-intensive, and pickers must make up at least 10 passes through the vineyard over 30 or 40 days to collect these perfectly noble rotted grapes. The result is a wine with extraordinary complexity, showing rich honey, apricot, and butterscotch notes. And even though the wine isn't high acidity, the natural bitterness of noble rot gives this wine a runway to age beautifully for 50 or more years. This wine clocks in at about 19% sweetness, and boy does it sing. And it's true, you might spend about $50 to $75 for a properly aged half bottle, but considering the complexity and process involved to make this wine, it makes other luxury items seem incredibly overpriced. Think wine takes a long time to make? Well, Italy's most patient winemakers spent a very stressful 4 years just waiting for the fermentation to finish in this wine. We're in Tuscany's Chianti Classico region, where Vin Santo has been crafted for centuries using native grapes like Malvasia and Trebbiano. This traditional sweet wine is adored locally, and with those who know, that producers continue to make it even though it has exceptionally high production costs. The magic starts with the pasito technique, where grapes are laid out on mats or hung in the winery rafters for months to dry into little raisins. This concentrates the sugars and creates incredibly sweet grape juice. But what makes Vin Santo special is the incredibly slow fermentation process in barrels called caratelli. The fermentation rises and falls with the seasons, taking 4 years to complete, and the barrels develop their own unique yeast mother over time. The result is a rich amber-colored wine with intense flavors of honey, dried fruits, vanilla, and almonds. And this wine clocks in at a whopping 27% sweetness, but because of the complexity due to the aging process, it's so balanced. And for around $40 or $50 for a half bottle, it feels like you're stealing Vin Santo. It's that good. Think fortified wines are just about port? Well, Australia's most unique sweet wine has been turning heads for 140 years. We're in Rutherglen, Victoria, where a special red variant of Muscat called Muscat à Petit Grand Rouge thrives in this area's Mediterranean-like climate. In fact, this tiny region is arguably the reigning Muscat capital of the world. To make this exceptionally sweet wine, this wine has like 30% total sweetness. Grapes will hang on the vine late into the season. Then, after crushing them, it's partially fermented or simply macerated before a neutral grape spirit gets added. Then, we wait. There are 4 aging classifications, including Rutherglen Muscat, Classic, Grand, and Rare. The result is a rich mahogany-colored red wine, showing intense aromas of rose petals and raisins complemented with dried apricots and rich dried fruit character. Despite its significant sweetness, it maintains a beautiful balance with fresh acidity. You won't find a wine that tastes like this anywhere else on the planet. What blows my mind is that this half bottle right here cost me $25. And that seems like nothing when the other day in San Francisco I bought a sandwich for the same price. And now for the real black gold. Pedro Ximénez is Spain's most intense sweet wine, and it was originally made to energize workers during the olive harvest. We're in Montilla-Moriles, where Pedro Ximénez, or PX, has been crafted since the 1700s. Grapes are sun-dried in a process called esolio, where grapes shrivel into raisins under scorching inland heat. And unlike coastal Jerez, Montilla-Moriles' dry climate prevents rot, allowing grapes to reach extreme sugar sweetness levels. What's surprising about this wine is that these wines aren't fortified. Their richness in sweetness and deep mahogany color comes from oxidative aging in a Solera system, which can include 100 vintages of production. The result is a deep, rich, brown colored wine with notes of figs, toffee, caramel, coffee, and an impossibly rich syrupy texture. This wine clocks in around 40% sweetness, and it's something you can enjoy in very small amounts. It blows my mind to think that this wine right here has nearly 100 vintages in the Solera system, and you can pick it up for under $40 for a half bottle. Now that is an amazing taste of history. So you see, sweet wines are serious indeed, and they deserve a place amongst the finest wines in the world. And what's even more surprising is despite these wines' rarity, you can still find many of these bottles for much less than you would spend on a night out at the bar. So I hope this video inspires you to dive into the wonderful world of sweet wines, and I'm curious, which wine sounded good to you? Was it the German Riesling or the Port? And which sweet wines did you wish I covered? Leave me a note in the comments. Until next time, happy tasting. Peace out.